Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and Miniature video. In today's video, we're going to continue on with my 15mm Napoleonic project updates. Now, today's update should be pretty quick because I don't have any like visuals to show you or anything. I'm just gonna tell you the update. Now, if those of you if you don't come to my Wargaming weeklies and you only are interested about my Napoleonic project, and so this is the only video of mine that you watch, then that's what this update's for. This update is specifically for you. But if you were interested in my Napoleonic project, I recommend at least taking a look at my Wargaming weekly videos. Because I do a lot of brainstorming and a lot of community interaction where we hash out certain rules, and mostly me. 90% of it is me, but I listen to the community to see what input they have. It might influence me, it might not, because again, I'm making these rules to they're rules that I want to play. It's not rules that I want you to play. Even though I hope you value my rules and understand them, and maybe you would want to play them. But that's not my goal. This is not a money-making venture or a trying to convert everybody in the world to my set of rules. That's not what it's about. It's about me sitting around the table, pushing miniatures, and having a good time. That's all it is. Also, it's about painting models for Napoleonics, and at the battalion level. And okay, so if you're following the progress, you know that I've got a bunch of Highlanders finished. I got a bunch of British line battalions finished. That's for a total of about 7 battalions there. And then I have Nassau. I got the 2nd Nassau Regiment, Usigen, finished. So that's another 4 battalions. So I got somewhere around 12. I'm just gonna spitball it. I got about 12 battalions finished on the Allied side. So I consider that to be a division approximately. And then on the French side, I've got 2 brigades finished. I got a light regiment of 4 battalions and a line regiment, actually 4 1st battalions of line regiments. So basically 4 battalions. So I've got a total of about 2 brigades of French. But then, okay, I also have some Brunswick cavalry. I've got them finished. And I have most of the artillery finished on the French side. I got all the foot artillery. I don't have the horse artillery. I don't have any of the artillery finished on the Allied side, not one gun. Okay, and so I've started working on the generals. I wanted to pull all my general packs off my wall, open them up, go through them, and figure out exactly what I have. I have enough general models to do all of the generals minus 2. I am putting 2 British colonels, I guess they are. I guess they're colonels. They might be generals. In the role of the 2 missing generals. I need 2 Brunswick Hussar, either just 2 Brunswick Hussars, because that would work fine, or 2 Brunswick generals. I have the Duke of Brunswick, and he comes with a Hussar attendant, so we've got that. But I don't have the spec, and I always remember spec, but I don't remember the other one. I think it's, I can remember Spec from the American War of Independence battle that he was in, the Freeman's Farm battle. Him and Retz and I want to say Lefevre, but we know that's not right. But either way, there's 2 Brunswick generals, and I don't have them, so I'm going to proxy in 2 British generals for that until I get the Brunswick generals. Eventually, I'll get them, but currently, right now, I don't own them. So that's what I'm doing. I'm currently painting the all the command stands all the way from Ney down to the brigade commanders, and all the way from Wellington down to the brigade commanders. So there is going to be for Quatre Bras, not Waterloo. So it's going to be about half of the generals that I need to do Waterloo, not counting the Prussians, which would be a whole nother set of generals. So we're working on that. That's currently what I'm working on. Okay, so now let's talk about the rules. I'm not satisfied with my melee rules. I'm still working on hashing out the details for melee combat. A lot of ideas are going through my head about closing fire and charge bonuses and things like this, right? Charging downhill, charging uphill, I don't know. But defending an obstacle, like maybe you're defending behind a wall when someone charges you, or you know, are you in a building when they're trying to knock you out of the building, etc. Right? There's a lot of these different things, and I don't know if I want to do die modifications like die roll number changes, or do I want to increase or decrease the number of dice you roll, which the firing system uses a straight number, and then you up or subtract the number of dice you roll for success. And I think I want to stay with that general concept for melee as well, and that way there's not 2 different ways of doing a fight. I'm thinking, you know, depending on like what formation you're in during the defense and what formation you are in for the attack, you might get a bonus to your dice. The dice, I'm thinking, are going to be equal to the number of stands you have. Okay, so it's going to be larger battalions are going to get more dice than small battalions, of course. And then I was trying to decide if I wanted to do a supporting elements like left, right, and rear. I'm thinking they're going to add to the dice and to the results. So it would give you double incentive to have supporting elements. Now, I'm trying to work out how I want to do multiple units striking the same unit. I think what I'm going to do is kind of the same way with supports. You're going to designate your unit that you want to be the primary unit, and then you'll roll all the dice for them, and then the supporting units will just add dice. I think that's the way I'm going to go, and I think that works out really well. I don't want to I don't want it to be just a tip versus tip type type attack. So here, let me just grab a couple of my envelopes here. Okay, so imagine these two are, okay, let's get it on the camera. Imagine these two are opposing battalions. I don't want this kind of combat. You know, this is, to me, is not a combat. This is a combat, you know. And how am I going to measure it? Well, I'm thinking that if you can cover up, now, what about this, right? If a unit comes in and attacks like that, I would allow that. That's definitely a combat. But even though it's still only connecting the tip, you can assume that the majority of the unit is striking them. But I don't want this kind of combat. Definitely not. And so if these two battalions are the same size and they meet each other on the battlefield, right? And there's a little bit of a thing there, and then another battalion comes up and strikes it like that, I don't consider that a second battalion attacking the primary battalion. Now, the way black powder resolves that issue, and I've considered this, but I don't really want to do this. I want to work it into the wording and not the moving of figures. What they will do is, if you make contact onto a battalion, before any dice are rolled or before anything else happens, you adjust your battalion to be directly in front of them. And so it's called realigning, right? So if you come up and you strike the battalion like this, you just shift over, and basically it's giving those battalions free movement, but it's also clarifying for the players which battalions are actually engaged and which ones aren't, right? So that's good, right? I like that. And if I've got a battalion perfectly lined up with them, then this other battalion wouldn't be able to come up and just tip them. But there's no need for that, right? I'm eliminating a need for tipping because if a battalion strikes another battalion and a second battalion comes up and strikes that same battalion, the attacking player is picking one of those two battalions to be his primary attack, which he's going to pick the best battalion, obviously. So you pick your primary attack, and the other guy is not in melee. He's technically only a support element. And I'm considering, and this is what I'm considering, writing a rule, clarifying a rule, that, because you could have a unit here and a unit there, right? And there could be multiple units striking the same battalion. But one of those battalions is visually going to be the primary, right? And not 100% up to the player to decide. So like you got your battalion here and you got a battalion here directly in the front, lined up perfectly, and then this other guy comes up and just tips. Well, we're not going to allow the tipping battalion to be the primary. He is going to be forced to be a support. And I'm going to have to figure out a way. I think I'm going to have, and I think I'm going to have like a threatening zone, or a zone of control, or a zone of threat, or how, I don't know how I'm going to word it. But directly to the front of the defending battalions is going to be a zone of threat. And it's probably going to be as far out as their musket range. So it's either going to be 6 or 9 inches. And if you get within that area, then you are required to engage that unit. So you can't drive across a guy's threat and attack this other battalion beside him, because once you get into that threat, you're going to have to go in on that guy because you're being shot at. and so you turn and you fight. So there's not going to be a lot of tit for tat. There's not going to be a lot of like little bitty. Well, I'm gonna put my little edge here, and I'm gonna take my other guy, and he's gonna drive all the way across to the other side. And no, there's not going to be any of that kind of bullshit. It's going to be pretty straightforward. You know, that's what you get. Same thing with shooting. I thought about this. If you are trying to shoot and you've got multiple battalions and he's got multiple battalions and you're within that threat range, and you have to be if you're going to shoot, unless you got 9-inch range, right? If you've got a 9-inch range and he's only got a 6-inch range, then you're not in his threat range and this doesn't apply to you. But if you have these two lines and they close within shooting range, you have to shoot at the target that you are in their threat range, their threat zone. So you can't be directly in front of a battalion and then decide to shoot over here at this battalion, because you're trying to have all your battalions focus fire on this single battalion, even though you've got other battalions directly to your front. So that's not going to be allowed. You're going to have to shoot directly to your front, or directly to their front. But if you've got rifles and that's giving you a 9-inch range, and you are 7 inches away, let's say, and they only have muskets, which is 6-inch range, well, then you can pick and choose whoever you want to shoot at. So yes, you would be able to concentrate fire. There will be blocking shots and stuff like that. You have to have a certain amount of your frontage that can see, or you only get the number of dice equal to the number of bases that can see. So if a base gets blocked, it can't roll, that kind of stuff. So that's a possibility, how I'm going to work out that. Command and control. Melees. Melees is going to be, you're going to have a number of dice. You're going to have a to hit number, just like, and this is not set in stone. This is something I'm still working on. I haven't decided how I'm going to do it. But you're going to have a to hit number, just like shooting, and that's going to be based on the experience and the weapon system that the attacking unit is using. And then when you make contact, it's you get to use all your dice to make melee attacks. Whether you're in column or in line, it doesn't matter. You get to use all your dice if you're the attacker. Now in the defense, I don't think a column is going to be allowed to use all of their dice. They're only going to use their front 2 ranks, basically. So 4 dice as opposed to 6 on a standard battalion. But what columns do for you is they give you a better chance of forming a square, and they give you better chances. Well, they give you more flexibility during movement, and they give you better attacks when you're going into melee, not for shooting, but melee. So columns have some advantages, but most likely you're going to want to be in line if you're defending, and on the attack you're probably going to want to be in columns. But so by giving modifiers to those types of attacks, I'm artificially dictating tactics that people use, and I kind of want to do that. Because tactics were used a specific way because they worked, and so I want to make those tactics have advantages because if they worked. If they don't work, then I wouldn't. Now, why would you be deployed in a line on the attack? You pretty much would not be in a line in the attack. you would be in a column. But oh yeah, another thing. The way the turn order works is that every player, well, when you move a battalion, you move the battalion and then you perform its shooting, and then you go to the next battalion, you move it and you shoot it, and then you go to the next battalion, you move it and you shoot it, right? Okay, unless they're doing melee or charges, you're going to have to reserve all the units that you want to charge will charge after all your moving and shooting. So you hold them in to the last portion of your brigade's orders, and then you move all the units that are charging. There will have to be a morale check or an experience test to actually be able to close in all the way. They still will get 2 moves, right? They don't get any bonus move, but they do get 2 moves. And one of them can be a standard, move, wheel, turn, whatever they're doing. And then the second half of the move will have to be straight into whoever they're charging. So you got to line them up, you got to wheel them the way you want to go, and then shoot straight, right? Once all the units, and this is how I'm going to resolve this, once all the units that have declared a charge and conducted their charge moves, then we will go into a single brigade melee round. So it'll basically be all the battalions in the brigade that have conducted a charge will now perform their melee. So combat will still be by brigade when it comes to that. Like I will, let's say I've got 6 battalions, and I move and shoot with 4 of them. And then once I'm done moving and shooting with those 4, I'll take the other 2 that I planned to do a charge, and I'll roll a test, he succeeds, and I roll a test, he succeeds. And then once they both get into contact and that move is done for the entire brigade, then I will conduct a melee round for those guys. Now the little trick here is I'm going to allow interpenetration, so you could charge through another battalion. That won't be a problem. So let's say I've got a battalion up here in line, because it gives you the best firepower, and it's 6 inches away, and it's blasting away at a unit. And then I take a second unit, which is another battalion in line, let's say, behind him, and he goes forward and he makes contact, right? So that unit that did not declare a melee is still in a supporting role, and so that melee will still benefit from that battalion that he just interpenetrated. I want to allow that that way because the charging unit knows that they've got backup, right? They've got these guys behind them, and yeah, so we're going to work that out somehow. But the dice rolls, I'm not exactly sure, but both sides are going to roll a bunch of dice. Both sides are going to conduct a bunch of hits. Both sides are going to take a bunch of hits. So you will, both sides are going to lose a number of you're going to take a number of hits, obviously. And the side that has taken the most hits is going to be considered the loser. But both sides are going to have to make a morale check. if you take one casualty or more, you will have to take a morale check for in the game. I think even in shooting, I think I'm going to have you take morale checks whenever you take fire as well. Haven't worked out that yet exactly. Haven't really gotten into the morale, but it's important in melee because when two units meet, they both have to make a withdrawal check or a fallback check, and if they pass, they can remain stationary. And if a unit is stationary connected at the end of their battalion's turn or their brigade's turn, well then when it comes back around to the following turn, or that enemy's brigade gets activated, now there's another melee. But now there's nobody's actually doing the charging. Now you're just in what's called a static melee. So you got your charge melee, but then on a follow-up round, it's a static melee, and you just do the melee. If one side passes and the other side fails their morale test, the failing battalion will fall back. Right. Okay. Got it. And that could go either way. That could be the charging unit falls back, or the charging unit causes the defender to fall back. It could be either one. If they both fail, they both fall back. That's the way it's going to be. So you charge in, there's a melee, there's a bunch of BS going on, you both make a morale check, you both roll horribly, you fall back. Okay. That fallback roll is going to be modified by supports. So if you've got guys to your left and right, you got guys behind you, you're more enthusiastic, you're braver, you want to continue on. I'm also thinking if you're in a march column, not a march column, but an attack column, you'll get a bonus to that roll. So attack columns will not fall back as often as a line will fall back, or attacking line. Defending line, defending column, doesn't matter, it's going to be the same. Okay. If one of the battalions, okay, let me rephrase that. If the defender does not fall back, the attacking cavalry, if there's any cavalry attacking, whether he passes or fails, it doesn't matter, will be forced to fall back. If the attacking cavalry passes, well, it doesn't even have to roll. If the defending infantry does fall back, then the attacking cavalry would be required to roll to see if he passes, because if he fails, he would fall back as well, just like infantry. But if the cavalry passes and the infantry falls back, then the cavalry can take an immediate another charge action or something like that. or they don't have to. It's not a requirement, but oh, something. But it gives them an opportunity to press the advantage if they have an advantage. If they realize they don't have an advantage, they can opt to fall back or press forward or remain stationary. Those are some of the things that are going on in my head. I haven't settled on any exact target numbers, dice rolls, or anything like that. But the whole, both sides need to make morale or fall back. That is a guarantee. I just don't know exactly what the numbers are going to be or how I'm going to roll it. Combat is definitely going to be a primary attacker with supporting battalions. There's not ever going to be a situation where two battalions hit the same battalion. Because if you do, then one of them would be the primary and the other one would just be a support. I think how I'm going to do supporting battalions, I want supporting battalions in contact to give more dice than a supporting battalion not in contact. Well, the supporting battalions are only adding to the morale test to fall back. Oh yeah, that's right. That's another thing. Because you're rolling a number of dice, and normally when you do melee and shooting, morale tests are not going to be a number of dice, right? Morale tests is going to be the exception to the rule. Morale tests are always going to be a 1-die roll versus a experience level. And because it is going to be its own thing, I think it would be easy to say it uses pluses and minuses to the die roll. Combat, it's not going to be that. Combat, melee, or shooting is always going to be dice pool growth. So you get more dice or less dice. But in morale, you're going to have a target number, 6, let's just say. And you would get a +1 on your die roll. +1 for every supporting unit. So if you were surrounded, you get a +3. And you would get a minus based on how many hits you received. So in that melee, if this unit did 3 and this unit did 2, you took 3 hits, not the difference. You don't take the difference. You take, but then again, maybe it will be the difference as a modifier. Because if you can see that you're winning because you're crushing them, you probably should not get as big of a minus. Yep, that's probably what I'm going to do, the difference. So if you do 3 and you take 2, the difference is 1 in your favor, so you get a +1. If you took 3 and issued 2, then the difference would be 1 against you, so you'd get a -1. Because remember, both sides are having to take a morale test. That'll work. I'll do it. That's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it that way. Plus all the supporting elements, giving you bonuses. And I'm considering attaching generals and stuff like that, and I don't really want to do that at the brigade level, but we might do that. I don't know. I haven't really considered that. Well, I have considered it. I just haven't really thought about it very much. All right, so that's basically an update of where I'm at. I'm still trying to hash out melee and command and control. I pretty much have decided that it's going to be a chain of command method where you have a overall general with a certain number of inches to a division general that has a certain number of inches to a brigade general who has a certain number of inches to all of his battalions. And if you're not in that area, then you don't act. I've considered that you don't move, but I guess you could still shoot. So even if you are out there in BFE completely away from your brigade, if some battalion closes within firing range, you'll shoot at them, you know. So even though they don't have movement options, they will have now I might give them an ability to pivot or wheel like 45 degrees maximum, and then that ends their turn. They can wheel 45 and shoot, or they could just stand and shoot, or something like that. And but they can only do that if an enemy comes within a certain number of inches of them. Otherwise, they're just out there doing their thing. But if you're inside that brigade command range, and he's inside the division command range, and he's inside the corps command range, and he's inside the overall command range, then they all get to move. That's how that's going to work. All right, guys. I will catch you once I get some more. Well, first of all, Tuesday is our Wargaming Wednesday. Wargaming Wednesday is what it used to be called. It is Wargaming Weekly now, and it will be on a Tuesday. So I look forward to seeing you then. And if I get any of these rules hashed out and actually typed up and written the way I want to use them, then I'll be sure to jump. Or if I get some of these generals painted, I'll be sure to get up on the stream and let you guys know about them. All right, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.